Griner says that said something about that effing white girl. Now, can you imagine the outrage if Caitlin Clark said those things? That injuries, that black girl.
The WNBA is once again mired in controversy, this time over shocking footage that appears to show Brittany Griner calling Caitlin Clark an effing white girl after fouling out against the Indiana Fever. This disturbing incident comes as the league continues to benefit from Clark's historic rise while remaining noticeably silent on the abuse and harassment she endures. Despite Clark's enormous contributions to growing the sport, the WNBA seems unwilling to confront the systematic targeting of its most important star. This moment starkly highlights the league's failure to protect its top talent from both physical aggression and deeply offensive verbal attacks.
Sure what she said, but the way people are taking it is that she said some very disrespectful stuff. Alright, so let's take a look at what she is saying right here. I'm not a lip reader, but it looked like right here she says, effing white girls. Oh man, effing trash, effing white girls. Effing trash right there.
What's most frustrating is the WNBA's complete inability or refusal to protect the very player who has done more to elevate their brand than anyone in recent memory. Caitlin Clark has taken the league from niche to national relevance, and yet the league prioritizes appeasing her detractors over defending her. The silence around the Griner footage, which clearly appears to involve racial language, is deafening. Instead of addressing the issue directly, the league is avoiding confrontation, exposing a weak and cowardly leadership style that values comfort over integrity.
The post from Brittany Griner, and one thing I don't understand is that, like, there is some kind of flimsy evidence, I guess. Like, we're not lip readers. We're not lip readers. She probably says trash. Like, it sounds like she has said. It looks like what it apparently says.
Compared to how other professional leagues handle misconduct, the WNBA's inaction is indefensible. When less serious altercations, like the one involving Chendi Carter, occurred, the league was quick to respond. But now, faced with clear video suggesting a racial slur was directed at their most high-profile player, they freeze. This inconsistency reveals a disturbing double standard and a troubling lack of commitment to fairness and justice.
Guys did not watch the game in its entirety. Brittany Griner fouled out late in the fourth, and she was in foul trouble the whole game. The referees was definitely calling everything on her. Even though the Indiana Fever really didn't get a chance to shoot a bunch of free throws that game, they was making specifically calls against Brittany Griner, and she was getting frustrated about it, man. Now, footage has surfaced, a couple different takes on this clip as well as to what she actually said. Some people said she didn't call Caitlin Clark a effing white girl. Some people say that she said what a effing whack call. At the end of the day, she said something.
If you watched the game, you'd know Brittany Griner was in foul trouble all night and eventually fouled out in the fourth quarter. While some fans debate whether she said effing white girl or what a whack call, the fact remains she said something that has sparked serious concern. From a purely business standpoint, the WNBA's failure to protect Caitlin Clark is a disastrous decision. Her impact is measurable, her games dominate ratings, her jersey is the best-selling in the league, and her presence alone is attracting sponsors and media coverage the WNBA couldn't buy before. Yet they allow this kind of toxic behavior to surround her unchecked.
Well, now it appears that Brittany Griner has been caught on video. And yes, there's a certain amount of lip reading that's going on here, but y'all let you be the judge, because I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to try to decipher what it is Brittany Griner was saying. By the way, she fouled out of a WNBA game against Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever. She plays for the Atlanta Dream now. So here we go. Brittany Griner, who Joe Biden acquired 2 years ago and maybe the most lopsided trade of all time, this side of Deshaun Watson, was caught on camera saying what appeared to be some not very nice things about white girl Caitlin Clark during her little WNBA game.
Rather than capitalizing on Clark's meteoric rise, the league seems to be sabotaging it by allowing an environment of hostility to flourish. Players like Angel Reese stir controversy for months without repercussion, and now Brittany Griner seems to operate with impunity. This fosters a culture where attacking Clark becomes not only normalized, but almost encouraged. It's not just morally wrong, it's a financial and reputational risk that threatens the league's future.
A lot of very, very racist women, right? These are racist women who were told that they were God's gift to women's basketball, that they are black, and because of that, they are better than white people at sport. That's the one area that they can succeed over white people in sport, right? And this is their league, right? Then you got a young, the stereotypical white girl, pretty, skinny, is better than it comes into the sport and becomes the Michael Jordan, LeBron James of the sport. The face gets more publicity on one than they ever got in some of their playoffs, any of their games ever. Brings more money. They are extremely jealous and won't say it. They want to make it like it's typical basketball, but no, they have made it very clear. Angel Reese, the Brittany Grinders, that nobody cared about.
In the business world, when someone adds massive value to an organization, protecting them from a hostile environment is non-negotiable. The same should apply here. Suspending Brittany Griner wouldn't just be about discipline, it would be a strong message that racial language and harassment won't be tolerated. It would show that the WNBA takes workplace standards seriously and expects every player to uphold the integrity of the game.
Then we have another thing where Brittany Griner says that says something about that effing white girl. Now, can you imagine the outrage if Caitlin Clark said those things? That Angel Reese, that black girl, was running from that. Why is it that the black players can be openly racist? There's investigation into racist comment, but you can be racist toward a white girl who is bringing all these eyes to the WNBA.
More than anything, a strong, visible suspension would prove to Caitlin Clark and her teammates that the league genuinely values a respectful and professional culture. This isn't about special treatment, it's about equal enforcement of standards. It would show sponsors, fans, and the sports world that the WNBA values professionalism above all else and is willing to defend those values, even when it's uncomfortable.
People believe that Bob Griner said trash followed by fucking white girl. Now, like I said, I'm not a lip reader. I don't know what she said. But again, the perception is the only thing that matters. And the perception throughout the WNBA is players dislike Caitlin Clark because she's white. I think the main reason they dislike Caitlin Clark is because she's white and has elevated.
The way Clark has been treated reveals a deep, systemic issue in how the league handles its stars. Rather than lifting up the players who bring attention and success to the sport, the WNBA seems willing to let them be dragged down by others who can't match their influence or impact. That sends a toxic message, not just to other players, but to young fans watching, that success makes you a target, and tearing others down is fair game.
The thing is, I wonder what would happen if you catch one of the white players saying effing black girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, what would happen if Caitlin Clark was saying something around that way with her lips? Oh, the internet would burn down, fam. They will be coming at Caitlin Clark left and right. You already have some people, especially in the media, saying, oh yeah, Caitlin Clark always get these special whistles. She's this, she's that, race this, race that. So I can only imagine if she messed around and had a video that was close to something like this. Come on, fam.
The consequences of this kind of toxic culture extend far beyond one incident. If this continues, top-tier talent could choose to leave the league altogether rather than endure the constant harassment. The league also risks alienating the massive new fan base that came specifically to support players like Clark. Fans came for great basketball, not unnecessary drama, and if the WNBA doesn't act, it could lose them for good.
One person said, I will be reaching out to the WNBA to ask if Caitlin Clark, a trash effing white girl, violates its recent announcement, no tolerance for racism and no space for hate campaign. We'll report back. Now, that is interesting because we know that they've been pushing their whole campaign about racism, attacks, and all these different scenarios playing out in the W.
This Griner incident is a turning point. The WNBA can either finally enforce consistent, meaningful professional standards or continue down the path of selective discipline and weak leadership. A suspension would send a powerful message: inappropriate language and hostility won't be tolerated, no matter who you are. On-court success doesn't excuse bad behavior, and no player is above the rules.
At WNBA, what is your current policy on respect to fellow players and racially motivated hostility? Yeah, I mean, what?
If the league refuses to act, it will confirm what many already suspect, that the WNBA lacks the courage and conviction to uphold its own standards. Failing to discipline Griner sends the message that accountability is optional. That's a dangerous precedent that could destroy trust not just with fans and sponsors, but with the athletes themselves. The league's credibility depends on showing that dignity, fairness, and professionalism aren't just slogans, they're requirements.
When a white girl joins a majority black league, her coming to the league brings more viewers, more ad money. The Caitlin Clark tide is going to, if embraced, rise all boats. The majority in the league, which is black women, has done everything they can to not welcome Caitlin Clark to the league. Why? There has never been any cost for black WNBA.
What unfolded Thursday night during the Indiana Fever's hard-fought 81-76 victory over the Atlanta Dream wasn't just unfortunate, it was disgraceful. And while the moment may have shocked casual fans, it sadly came as no surprise to those who have closely followed how Caitlin Clark continues to be treated by her fellow WNBA players. The most glaring example from that night came from none other than Brittney Griner, the same athlete who made international headlines as part of a high-profile prisoner swap involving the so-called Merchant of Death. But instead of showing maturity and leadership, especially as a veteran of the league, Griner appeared to crumble under the pressure of being outshined by a 22-year-old rookie point guard who weighs nearly half as much as she does. Rather than channeling her energy into basketball and letting her performance speak, Griner's conduct exposed a troubling pattern. One where sportsmanship is thrown out the window in favor of personal frustration and targeted disrespect. After struggling through a poor game where she managed only 5 points in 25 minutes, Griner ultimately fouled out. Instead of walking off the court with dignity, cameras caught her mouthing what appeared to be an extremely offensive racial slur, specifically calling Clark an effing white girl. That moment, captured clearly on video and now circulating across every major social platform, marks a deeply concerning lapse in professionalism and ethics from someone who should know better. This wasn't a misinterpreted mumble or a vague gesture. The footage was direct, clear, and for many, indisputable. While it's true that lip reading isn't a perfect science, the visual evidence has convinced a significant portion of the public that the words used by Griner were not only inappropriate but outright unacceptable. If this type of language were used in any other professional setting in America, there's no doubt it would lead to immediate suspension or even termination. The fact that such conduct came from a prominent and experienced WNBA player makes the situation even worse. Instead of using her platform to uplift the league and set an example for young players, Griner, seemingly overwhelmed by her own underperformance, resorted to behavior that falls far below the standards of professional conduct. What's even more disappointing is how the league has responded, or rather, failed to respond. In the same game, Clark was involved in a minor verbal exchange with Atlanta Dream's Ryan Howard. That altercation resulted in both players receiving technical fouls, followed by a laughably small fine of just €30 each. The amount is so minimal that it essentially signals that the league saw no serious wrongdoing, just routine on-court tension. But the Griner incident, which many believe was racially charged, has been met with complete silence from WNBA leadership. This inconsistency is glaring. How can a minor spat between two competitors be addressed publicly and financially, while a veteran player seemingly uses inflammatory and derogatory language without a word from the league office? The discrepancy in responses reveals a deeply troubling double standard. It raises pressing questions about whether the WNBA is truly committed to holding all players equally accountable, or whether certain names are immune to discipline based on legacy, politics, or public image. The fact that Caitlin Clark, one of the brightest young stars the league has ever seen, continues to face disrespect, targeted aggression, and now potentially racist slurs, with minimal institutional support, is alarming. If the WNBA genuinely wants to foster a healthy, inclusive, and professional environment, then it must act consistently and without bias, especially when issues of race, respect, and integrity are involved. Even more telling is that Clark wasn't having a career night by her usual standards. She finished with just 11 points, modest by her explosive capabilities. This wasn't a game where she dominated and embarrassed Griner in front of a national audience. It was an average performance that somehow provoked an extreme reaction from an opposing veteran. This suggests that the issue may not be about basketball performance at all, but something deeper, a simmering resentment or bias that manifests in moments of emotional vulnerability. Griner's alleged comments, whether driven by frustration or something more systemic, now place a glaring spotlight on the toxic culture that still exists beneath the surface in the league. This isn't just about one game or one insult. It's about what kind of values the WNBA wants to promote. If it chooses silence now, it risks signaling that racial double standards, unsportsmanlike behavior, and personal attacks are acceptable or at least forgivable, so long as the offender is a veteran or a public figure. That's a dangerous precedent. The league cannot afford to brush this incident aside as just another outburst. Instead, it must confront it head-on with transparency, clarity, and firm action. Because at its core, this situation is not just about Caitlin Clark or Brittany Griner, it's about setting the tone for the entire league, for future athletes, and for fans watching worldwide. Will the WNBA stand for equality, professionalism, and fair play? Or will it allow favoritism and hypocrisy to corrode the very values it claims to represent?